You're listening to Sarah Hagan Backstage, with interviews and insights from years inside the music industry. Join Sarah as she talks with masters of their crafts, finding out what makes them tick both inside and outside of the music business.
Welcome to Sarah Hagan Backstage. My guest today, Stephen Perkins, is known as the drummer in the bands Jane's Addiction and Porno for Pyros, and also Think X, MC5, Halloween Jack, and quite a few others. But did you know that he also has his own record label? He hosts a talk show, and he's played drums and percussion on a whole host of other songs like steel drums on No Doubt's Spiderwebs. We are going to talk about all of these things, as well as go way deep on creativity and inspiration and on the music industry in general. So come along with me as I catch up with Stephen Perkins. Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sarah, and thank you for having me on the podcast. And,
Absolutely.
It feels good to hear your voice and see you, and one day soon in person, but it's been too long. So thanks for having me and putting me into your life again.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on today. It has been forever. I haven't seen you in what feels like forever in person, but
yeah, we did. Me and Blas Perez did a duet, a drum and bass duet, and you were there. And I thought we played great. And it was cool because if you have just another musician to play with the space, you don't need anything else. I mean, the real estate can be filled. All you need is just two imaginations kind of battling it out. And so I remember that you were there, and that was a great weekend out. Was it in Indiana? Where was that?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Cool. Indianapolis. Yes.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So good. So good. I know. And it feels like a whole lifetime ago. Like so much has happened since then. So much like change in life and careers and all of that. But we are still, but we're still the same people, right? So that's what's important.
Well, I realized so much about actually drumming because I had so much time on my hands. So like a pro basketball player that just sits there and does free throws all day. There's no urgency and there's no reaction, but there's a lot of hand-eye coordination. And I kind of went back to when I was 14 or 15. I just worked on rudiments and got really into like tight snare drum work and exploring the drums in a more, I guess, authentic way when I started, because I had no one to play with when I started. It was just me and a drum.
Right.
So I kind of found that again, and it's been great for this, I guess, intense microscope of what I have on the strengths and weaknesses of my drumming, because you kind of lose that microscope when you're on tour or with other musicians or taking cues from producers. And it was cool. It was just me alone with me and my drumsticks. So I kind of like thought, okay, this is a lot of time on my hands, but I always wanted to get back to basics. I guess that's how you can put it. So I got back to basics with the rudiments, and that's kind of a personal, like any artist, you have to. It's not sacrifice, but you have to put away everything. And as a young musician or a young artist, you don't think about that. But as you get older, it's hard to put stuff away and get to it again. But I had no choice really. So it was cool, So that's what I've been doing for 2 years, really, is like microscoping my hands and how I bounce the sticks off the head.
I love that. That's really, really interesting. So you kind of like went back in time, went back to the beginning, and just kind of shedded for a couple of years. That's
really. I broke out some of the old original books and looked at my notes, and I didn't really kind of like chew through them again, but I just kind of like revisited. And then I brought up some of my old favorite DVDs that I had of Krupa and Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson and some of those early influences before I knew how many drummers were out there. I didn't know there was Elvin. I didn't know there was Ginger. I just heard about the great three jazz guys.
Yes.
I was 10 years old. So I got those like videos out, and it was cool because it really stimulated something new in me. And I have a 12-year-old son, and he's playing guitar. And, at 12 years old, you don't want to have homework on your instrument. You want to have
Mhm.
fun. And I know how that feels. But at this age, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a little homework. I'm going to go and get into it, like you said, and shed. And now that the gigs are coming back, I'm saying yes to everything. Kenny Aronoff taught me that years ago. Just say yes, and then if you double book, work it out. Find a
Yeah,
replacement.
that's
So
too funny.
yeah, so I say yes to everything, and it's starting to happen. And now I get to play basketball with other people again, not just doing the free throws.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good, and I love that you just brought up Kenny. I was just talking about Kenny yesterday because, when you talk to Kenny on the phone, it's you have like a 5-minute conversation with him because he's always somewhere or going somewhere or doing something. But
Yeah.
in that 5 minutes, there's like 45 minutes of information that is passed back and forth. Like he
It's
has so much energy.
it's
It's
unbelievable, and it's all to me. It's not only a motivation to see how he plays and acts, but to see what he does to people and the ripple effect he has on people. It's
yes.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It is, and he seems to be everywhere at once, that I recently saw, Haley Reinhardt, I follow her on Instagram,
That's right. Yeah, I
such
know
a
her.
great musician, love
Yeah.
her, and she posted a picture the other day, and Kenny was in it, and I was like, "What?" Like, he's everywhere, so I like that advice, take the gig, right? Take the gig and then figure it out,
you
um,
know, and Kenny does have a twin brother, so you
yes,
never know. You never know what's going on and who does what where. But
I mean, he definitely does the work of multiple people, so
yeah,
that could
yeah.
be. Maybe his
You
twin
know,
is, filling in.
and now it's like at the point where if you do have two gigs and you're have the opportunity to share the wealth, so to speak, that's great because the drum community is a tight community of people that love each other. No one can really sound like anybody, so we're not going to rip anybody off.
Mhm.
There's just great players, but Bissonette doesn't sound like Aronoff, and Aronoff doesn't sound like Vinny, and so on. But
Right.
they all have something we want, and we want to watch and listen.
Yeah,
But it's like,
absolutely.
go ahead. I was just thinking that the drum community can call and say, hey, can you sub for me? And it feels good to pass it on. And it
Mhm.
feels good to know that another drummer that you love and respect is doing the job. And the bass player, whoever's in the band, can go, oh, cool. Perkins sent this cat, and this cat's incredible. We're set. So
Yeah,
I've learned not to have, like, I guess, jealous or envy or any kind of anxiety about passing the gig on, because it goes around. What comes around goes around. So don't worry about it. Don't be worried, like, if you can't do it
right.
and you call Thomas Lang and the guy's incredible. Cool.
Yeah,
He'll call you one day, maybe. So
yeah, that is
uh,
so true. That this community, like, I say it all the time, but it's just so incredibly unique and supportive within the music industry. The
yeah,
drumming world, everybody just loves each other, almost everybody, and,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it just, like, passes you're right, they pass along gigs to each other, information, drum techs, I see, you
yeah,
know, that community is incredible. I just saw a post recently, from Rob Whitehead, Ronnie Vanucci's tech, saying, "Hey,
yeah,
if anyone out there is looking for some work," Steve-O Morrison, Tommy
yeah,
Lee said the same thing, right? Like,
yeah.
there's such a great community, and it's so, um, just supportive of each other, so
It is, and
I
and
love
there's
that.
also there's like this athletic, part of drumming about the stamina and the endurance, and you don't really even have to like the guy's band to like the drumming, and
Yes.
and after a while the band grows on you, but it's usually the drummer that gets me turned on,
Yeah.
and it's like, and there's all these great drummers. And maybe about 8 years ago, when Whiplash came out, and then also the movie with Michael Keaton, there was like scenes where the
Yes,
jazz
Birdman.
drums, yeah, they were breaking up the scenes with the jazz drum parts. And
Yep.
drums they never go away, but sometimes they get highlighted and spotlighted in the community of all entertainment, and then it goes away, it comes and goes. But like
Mhm.
Travis Barker the other day stole the show, and of
Yeah.
course, and then losing one of my best friends, T Hawk and Taylor, the ripple effect of what he's done to the world in 50 years and what people are feeling. And it's weird because Mozart and Beethoven, they wrote it, but we don't really know how they played it. It's a conductor that says this is the tempo. One
Mm-hmm.
conductor can do Beethoven's Fifth in 12 minutes, another can do it in almost 13 minutes, but it's the same piece of music. But
Right.
we do know what Bonham and Moon and Pert and Taylor, we know exactly how they wanted us to hear it because they played it, we heard it, and we can go visit that. So it's remarkable when you have a conductor make it its own,
Mm-hmm.
and the composer is just the vehicle in a way, or the tool, and then we have the music today that we can record it, and listen to it forever, and we can hear actual soul. We hear, it's like we hear their personality if you really focus in on what music is. Jimi
Mm-hmm.
Hendrix, yeah, Jimi Hendrix and Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding, that's their personality, and it sounds to me almost like Elvin Jones and Coltrane, but and McCoy Tyner, but it's rock. you know
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing musicians' personalities, and warts and all, perfection. Art, there is no perfect art. When I first was talking about art with somebody, I said, look, take the word, it's a word, fart, but take the word art, it's just one letter different. It's like, take F out of fart, you got art. It's like, it's just a word, but it's what you want it to be, and
Right. Right.
it has to happen. It
Mm-hmm.
just, you can't stop it. And I think that's the beauty of like what Taylor left behind, and what we do as musicians in this community, is that
Mm-hmm.
we're athletic, and we want to see what the other guy can do. And there's envy and jealousy. Wow, I wish I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like, hey, I do my thing,
Yeah.
and that's my thing. So hopefully they can't do that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, and that's the best part when you have your thing, like, and you
Mhm.
know what it is. I think that there's a journey to discover what your thing is, right? Like, for everybody.
Yeah,
But, like,
absolutely.
once you figure that out and you own it, then that's when the jealousy kind of goes away. You're kinda
Yeah,
like, "Okay, well, but this I have my thing now, and I know what it is, and as long as I do that and stay true to it, I'll keep working, right? And I'll keep doing it. And then people
absolutely.
recognize that in you. Like you have a very particular sound when you play. People can recognize that. And I think that's like such a goal as a musician to have people really like recognize your sound, see your sound, right? Like see what it is that you do or see you in the music. I think that's so important.
Well, I'm so happy you used the word see and hear, because if you think about music, obviously it's air. I mean, it's
Mhm.
nothing there. It's just, it
Mhm.
has to be made and it goes away. And the drummer has a silent room, and it's up to me really to do what, and that's what I wanted to break the silence with that. And you don't get to stroke the silence. You don't get to brush it. You have to pierce it as a drummer. So you have to have intention, you have to have determination, and you have to stand behind it. Because if you don't, it's blurred and no one can really grab to what you're trying to say. And so
Mhm.
there's a great responsibility a drummer has when he sits down with other musicians, or even in a room alone, to to break the silence with confidence, and to repeat that over and over so people can feel the air. It's actually air moving. Like I was going back, it's
Mhm.
air. and
Mhm.
and my other favorite thing in the world is architecture. It's a beautiful building, and that to me is like frozen music. It's
Mm.
like, it's beautiful, but it's frozen in time. And Mozart is hundreds of years old, but so is a building from Rome or Paris. They still stand,
Yeah.
and we go. Unfortunately, one day me and you will be gone, but those pieces of music, and that piece of land where the land built the, whatever Roman statue, which has been there for 1,000 years, it's going to be there still.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I love the stuff that stays here, like music. Even though it's air, you can always listen to it. And and it's a strange thing with drums or even the bass, because you hit something and there's actual air moves.
Mhm.
people's hair go right. Their hair can go back.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking of. You can feel your hair if you have
Yeah.
hair like this.
So you can see music, you can hear music, and
Mhm.
you can see architecture. You can't hear it. Maybe a building speaks if you listen, but
Yes.
there's. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say the thing about architecture that fascinates me that kind of connects it to music is like the math involved in it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And like the math involved in creating a structure that holds up, and the math involved in music, and how music that is pleasing to your ear is like mathematically sound. And so I think about that one building that sticks out to me, that, and I love architecture too. La Sagrada Familia in
of course.
Barcelona.
Yeah,
It is like I look at that building and explore it, and I feel like I'm seeing art, and I'm seeing music, and I'm seeing nature and science and math all in one place. It's just like the ultimate. um,
absolutely. I mean,
it's
Barcelona.
so incredible.
Well, people don't know if they haven't visited Barcelona. You're surrounded by Gaudi's architecture. It's everywhere, and
Mhm,
Gaudi and Picasso and Dali all drank something called absinthe. And
mhm.
if you look at their art, it it doesn't have lines. There's nothing square about it. It's
Yes.
always soft and movable, but still concrete and safe. And I think there's a point when you walk the streets in Barcelona where you don't see the difference between nature and actual architecture. There's a blend. And
Mhm.
it's sometimes it sticks out. It's like, why did they put this here? It's so ugly. That doesn't happen in Spain. It
Yes.
really it kind of grows out of the land. The architecture grows out of it because the people that live there respect what the land uses and the shapes of it. But you're right.
Mhm.
There's something about a drummer laying down a rhythm, and people respond to that. So if you jack it, it's okay. But if you jack it over and over, then the rhythm changes to this new rhythm,
Mhm.
and it's like,
Mhm.
then people can remove to that. And I love having that impression on someone's hips or body, and then
Mhm.
seeing what I do to them. And just like a building with a staircase that's a spiral, like,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, or a staircase that zigzag, or it's what you do to their body. You're actually doing something to them to get them through this structure. And
Mhm.
maybe they don't realize it, but it's a dance. It's a
Yeah.
real dance. So, like, everything in life has, I guess, this rhythm. We all have a different one. I wake up and I do my thing. You wake up, you do your thing. But at the end of the day, we are here for maybe 105 years, 110 years, whatever it might be. And even that's a rhythm, our life source. And
Mhm.
I try to really look at these rhythms. When I first got my bongos, 1986, after all the time playing drumsticks,
Mhm.
the rhythms all of a sudden got so tiny and so circular
Mm.
because I was playing with my fingers.
Mhm.
And it was like, and I thought, okay, this is a whole nother way of looking at rhythm. It shrunk it down compared to what Bonham or Ginger or Moon was doing, which was kind of spread out the rhythm.
Big.
And then,
Yes.
yeah, they just shrunk it, like it made it. And that's when I started going to I guess my homegrown sound was
Mhm.
African, not knowing Babatunde and Fela, not knowing those names.
Mhm.
But when the music came to me, it seemed so familiar. And when I played my drum set, I thought Alex Van Halen, yeah, but also Babatunde. Oh, okay.
Mm.
Also
Mhm.
Jimmy Rhythms. And Aronoff was doing a show with Navarro, and they did Mountain Song. And Kenny's like, "What is this drum beat?" I said, "Well, I wrote it thinking djembe, and I wrote it on the drum set, but I was thinking,
Yes.
what would an African drummer do to a rock riff?" And once I told Aronoff that, he was like, "Oh, great, I got it." So he hung up because it's hard to hear in the mix exactly what I did, but the
Mhm.
rhythm is ka kaka kaka, and it's really a djembe rhythm, but
Mhm.
played on trap kit. And once I stuck to it, and then the bass player had his riff, it's like an MC Escher painting, the white duck and the black duck. There's the
Mhm.
and it just goes right by, you know. And that to me is magical when you know the drums have purpose in a song,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, and you do react, and you can do a drum fill at the end of the measure or at the beginning or reacting to a vocal part. But what's that beat? Like Tomorrow Never Knows with Ringo. What's the beat? Does that beat hold water? Is that a highway they can drive on just with like psychedelic sounds? That's really, he came up with a beat that could actually drive a whole psychedelic highway down, you know?
That is
Like,
very true.
yeah. So it's cool that the drummer has all these different opportunities to be like Elvin or Mitch Mitchell, very
Mhm.
conversationalist, or like Ringo in that song where it's just a highway,
Yeah.
and you know, and let the birds and the bees go flying by.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there are 2 ways that you can look at it, but I
Yeah,
love that explanation though of putting the African rhythms to the drum set because again, that's something that I do think about when I think of you and your style and your sound and all of that, and it is, like, inherent in all of the things that you play. Um And so when you were growing up, you were listening to the jazz masters, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
What kind of got you were you listening to rock and roll at that time as well, or what kinda, like, got you into to rock music?
Well, there was rock everywhere, and I loved it. And I also love Sly and James Brown, even Jackson 5. I love like
Mhm,
dance music, 12, 13 years old. Then there was I'm 1980, I had my bar mitzvah. So Saturday Night Fever was just a couple years old. So the Bee Gees and Donna Summer, there was a
mhm.
lot of dance, pulsating drumming. So I did enjoy that. But no one in my world played piano, upright bass, or saxophone. So I desperately wanted to play jazz, but I had no one to
Mhm.
play with.
Right.
And everyone who came over brought an Ampeg or a Marshall, and they wanted to play AC/DC, and I didn't mind it, but
Mhm.
that had to change the traditional grip to match. That had to change the dead pillow, take the pillow out of the kick. All of a sudden, I was competing with volume, and it
Yes.
wasn't just about feel and swing and technique. There was a whole nother element now. So I didn't grow up, unfortunately, with the dynamic of understanding a piano player, an
Mhm.
upright a bass player without an amp. Now I have the opportunity and I love it. And I get to dive into that to play those dynamic moments with people. But as a 12, 13-year old, it was like, turn it up. So I kind
Mhm.
of, the jazz, the favorite rock drummers, I would find the swinging drummers, Bill Ward from Sabbath and, Bonham and
Yes.
drum, Ringo, of course, and Charlie. These drummers were swinging because
Mhm.
they had jazz to pull from and R&B, I guess, and blues, so it was really a sense of what turns me on when I get on the drum set. It was boom, doom, 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 doom. But and it was swing and jazz, but I had no one really that played African or jazz music around me. Everyone played rock.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I stuck to my guns. I'm like, this is what I feel. You guys, and great news, Jane's Addiction guys were like open arms. Cool, let's try
Yeah.
that. And we all had different record collections. We all liked different things. And Perry was 9 years older than me. Eric, the
Mhm.
bass player, 6 years older. They didn't really have the same friends or record or even dress the same.
Right.
Me and Dave are very similar. We had Scorpions and Maiden and the newer metal
Mhm.
we wanted to rock, but also the stuff we kind of grew up on when we were kids and our music teachers infused, you know.
Yes.
And so it
Absolutely.
was really a great conversation of people saying, let's do our own thing and come up with something. Let's not reference Zeppelin and say, wouldn't it be cool if you did a Zeppelin beat? Or let's not reference this. Let's try to not to reference. Let's just
Yeah.
go forward, Yeah.
Yeah, make create something totally new, and you
Yeah.
did. You
Yeah.
absolutely did. I mean, the
We
sound is
try too.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And that's just that's amazing. How old were you when you started playing with James?
17, 1985, 86.
Oh my gosh.
So I never really had a proper real job. Through high school, I worked at a shoe repair, a little construction, a pizza joint. But
Mhm.
once I graduated, You know, 4 or 5 nights a week we would rehearse, and 2 or 3, 4 nights a month we would do gigs. There was no real money, but there was movement. There,
Hmm.
you know, to me, success is not money, because Gandhi was successful. You know, Mother Teresa is successful. There's no cash flow there. You know, what's your target?
Right.
What's your bullseye? That, and then you keep moving that bullseye and target. But you know, you can be a success if that's what you want and you know what you want. So we really wanted to write music and play songs in front of people. That was like a goal. But
Yes.
Chili Peppers, Fishbone, Minutemen, Firehose, X, they were already out with music and bands.
Hmm.
And we would play with these guys, but me and Navarro had way more metal than any of those bands had.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, if you listen to early Janes, we had Idiot's Rule, Pigs and Zen. You can hear that Fishbone and Chili Peppers and Minutemen were affecting us.
Hmm.
And then you heard me and Dave kind of like squeeze what we were like. We like to rock. There should be
Yeah.
a lot of guitar solos. You know, you didn't hear guitar solos like that in the punk rock, post punk rock scene.
No.
But they accepted us, and Henry Rollins and Mike Watt and the guys in the Circle Jerks and the Dead Kennedys. They came and hugged me and Navarro like, "Holy Jesus, you guys are incredible!" But we had great songwriters, Eric and Perry. So we
Yeah.
weren't just shredding away. We had really cool songs, but we were sneaking in our
Your
juice.
flair, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
that was 86, and the strip was just ended. I got plenty of Motley and Rat and a lot of the stuff in high school. I was able to go look at that and watch it and become friends with those cats. But it really was, they hit the wall. I mean, every band on the strip was signed and they all kind of sounded the same.
Hmm.
And the post-punk thing, like I say, with X and some of those bands, they hit the ceiling too. Then we're going to get much bigger.
Hmm.
So that was this moment, so bam.
Yeah. It's like, what a great moment. You
Yeah.
recently you posted a tour flyer recently from like 993, I want to say, but it was a Porno for Pyros. You
Oh,
were
yeah.
playing with, and it was so funny because when I saw that, I was like, that is like a snapshot in time. Like the bands on that show was like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Henry Rollins and Fishbone,
Primus.
Beastie Boys,
Primus. Yeah.
Primus, yes.
Yeah.
And like that, that was just I was talking to someone the other day about this exact time, like 1993, 94, like that period of time was just for music, like mind blowing because there was so much like new stuff being explored, like new
Yeah.
sound, new,
And,
new, I don't know, like
it
it
was
was
cool.
so good.
And there was also so many great drummers. If you think about Soundgarden and Tool
Yes.
and Janes and
Yes.
Pumpkins with Janes, and
Yes.
Pumpkins and Pearl Jam went through many great drummers. I mean, there was like a drummer after drummer, and then there's always this like rebirth, because Tommy Lee had such an effect that everyone wanted to be T. Lee.
Hmm.
But after Janes, there was a sense like I heard what Tim was doing in Primus. I was like, that's mathematical but sexy. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, that's unusual. What the heck?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Where'd that? And then that, it came from Jay as well, from Sausage, the
Hmm.
drummer for Sausage, Jay Lane. And
Yes.
predated Tim a little bit of what that mathematical, sexy stuff was going on.
Hmm.
But there was just so many interesting things, and what Texas was going through. Man, Texas kept on spewing out drummers like, oh
Yes.
God, these guys
What
are,
I don't know what it is about Texas, but
yeah,
yeah, there's like holy moly, and like
yeah,
and so many like different styles of amazing drummers too from
yeah.
Texas.
It was great, and like I said, the drummer, when they stand out, the music business notices, and the business changes a little. I really feel that. Like T. Lee, or what the alternative scene did, or what Travis is doing.
Yeah.
Even though it's 10 years, 20 years now since, if you think about how long Travis has been playing drums, but he's still making an imprint, he really
Yes.
is. Which is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It is.
Yeah.
It is amazing to me too when because the drummer's like in the back and And some drummers are really happy to be in the back, and but other drummers kind of just supersede and kind of become like their own entity with their own sound, and yeah, people take notice because
Yeah,
drums are cool. Like
yeah, man. They are.
they're
And
fun.
also it's like this therapy, you're like running in place, you're painting, you're doing yoga, you're meditating. That's drumming. You
Mhm.
have to have it all happening, and
Mhm.
otherwise it's a battle between your brain and your hands. But if you
Yeah.
can relax and let it all happen and not, compare or like put yourself down, yeah, you want to get better every day, but the goal is to feel, you
Yes.
and make people feel it too if you can, if you have that opportunity.
Yeah, I would
Well, I
agree
was
with
going to
that.
say with food, do you cook a lot at
I
home?
do. Yes, I do.
Okay. So that's the other thing that's kind of like music and architecture is food, but
Mhm.
you can't live without food. I mean, you can live without other things, but it's so weird that if we don't breathe for 5 minutes, we're dead. If we don't eat for 5 days, we're dead,
Yes.
and whatever the number might be. But the food has got such a beautiful romance and art to it. And you have to do it 2 or 3 times a day. It's unbelievable how many times you have to eat in a lifetime. It's like, okay, this is challenging, okay? But especially when you have kids, it's
Yeah.
like, God, how much they eat. But there's something about rhythm and the way you cook and clean and when you eat and how you eat. And there's a rhythm to it. And if you look at like tribes and the way, before Western civilization kind of squashed everything, different rhythms and how people had different duties to keep balance.
Mhm.
And when you have too many people, you lose balance. And when you lose your sense of goal or purpose or what you're supposed to do with yourself, you lose balance. And I
Yeah.
think it's so hard to keep in balance nowadays. Um, and music balances me. Other people have other outlets, but I
Yeah.
find that getting on stage is a great way for me to feel good and get paid. That's my life. But doing that balances other people.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
come to the show, and Jerry Garcia said it when he flew into the Woodstock. He looked down and said, "There's never this amount of people in one place unless it's a battlefield."
Oh man, yeah.
Music, man, music brings people together. It's not a battle. But look at that. And
Yes.
so it's a beautiful way to heal people is to play drums and play music. It's a great way to make a living because that's what I wanted my whole life is just to play drums. I didn't realize I'd have to leave home and leave the family and do stuff that hurts.
Yes.
But hey, everyone hurts. I mean,
Yeah.
if a band asked me to go on tour and say you're going to be gone for 18 months, I don't know, man. It would break my heart to leave home. But
Yes.
gosh, that sounds like fun. Maybe you two needs a drummer for 18 months.
Yeah.
Peter
I
Gabriel or
know.
something. Those are dreams.
Right, right, yeah, and I think that's kind of, like, rare nowadays too because bands don't really go out for 18 months
No
anymore,
anymore.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I remember, oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember who it was that I was talking about kind of the heartbreak of leaving kids for years at a time
Oh
because
yeah.
whoever this was, they were going out, for literally for years and then
It's
coming
insane.
home. And it just is it's, like, so rare nowadays, I feel like being a musician, although it is hard to leave, and sometimes it is for a stretch of time, sometimes you're overseas and all of that. It's a little bit of a different world where you can have that family life a little more now, and I think maybe even the
Yeah.
pandemic has given people a different priority, a different list of priorities as far as, how much time they're willing to be away for any one
Absolutely.
period.
You know, it
Mhm.
shook the tree. You
Yeah.
know, the fruits that came out. You're looking at them, going, okay, these are important. I don't want to just forget. You know why I'm here and what we're doing here. And
Yeah.
I've been watching a funny comedian. His name's on the tip of my tongue, but maybe I'll text it to you so you can talk about. You can post him. But
Yes.
he said, "I don't want kids because everything you do becomes about them." But
Yeah.
but once they're 18, it gets back to you again, really. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
well,
Yes.
you don't wipe their butts after they're 5, and you don't wipe their nose after they're 2, and you don't have to be like part of their life as far as they don't want you part of their life. They want to continue on. And it's great because having a child has given me this sense I want to be healthier.
Yes.
I want to be smarter, happier. I want to, hate less. I want
Yes.
to judge less. I want to, take time that hurts less. And it's weird because a good moment comes and goes, but a bad moment seeps in and it doesn't leave. And it's like this. I want to reverse that. I want the good moments to seep in. Let the bad moments be like a cloud, just go right by.
Yes. Move
And
past.
yeah, exactly. And as you get older, you start to realize how important those moments are, just laying in bed with your wife and husband and kid or whatever it is. And like, okay, this is great because in 2 weeks I'm gonna get on a plane and I gotta fly to Denver and be in a
Right.
cold hotel somewhere. But I get to play,
Yes.
Yeah.
You get to do what you always wanted to do,
Yeah.
right? I do think, there's something about kids that it puts everything into perspective as far as what you like you just mentioned, what you spend your time doing, what you spend your time on, and then what you let live in your head, because
Yeah.
you do realize that everything affects kids, everything affects humans, and so um, it's one of those things where you have to learn to be completely selfless and really like love in a different way, I think. And then for me, kind of tying it back to music, music takes on a whole different um meaning. Like it's
Yeah.
so much different. I hear music completely differently. I think like every stage of life that you go through, if music is in your heart, if that's like what you love and it kind of follows you, it gives you a whole different like take on a song maybe that you've listened to dozens and dozens of times, but like something changes in your life and suddenly you're like, this song is something I never knew it was, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how
Exactly.
crazy.
You can see it and hear it in another way. Or actually, if your kid like goes, I like this song. Like, I used to like this song. Why and how does this happen? And I had
Yes.
nothing to do with that actually happening. It was something that was brought to them without me part of it. But the music and the binding of like books and art and music and movies and film, it's such a great experience to show our kids something that turned us on and
Yes.
see if it turns them on. And if it doesn't, find out why and go, okay, I
Mhm.
want to learn, I want to learn why does it fall flat for you? Tell me
Right.
what you're thinking. But
Right.
now I have a record label. It's called Perkins Palace. So this,
Yes.
this is really cool. When the pandemic hit, the Jane's Addiction Management called me and they're, man, you're an athletic drummer. You must be going crazy. I was like, please give me something to do. They said, how about a label? I said, oh, that'd be great, man. But as soon as the word got out in my head and I told a couple friends, everyone's like, I got a band, I got this, I got a project. I didn't really want to put a friend or a band or a project out. I wanted to
Mhm.
find something I believed in and I didn't have any connection with, or maybe I did, but I just wanted to believe in it. So
Yeah.
it was about 16, 18 months, and I found the band called Air out of Columbus. And they have all been separate bands prior to the pandemic. They're in their mid 20s. But when the pandemic hit, they started this band exclusively just writing songs in their garage right in Columbus, right near the university, where there's like a bunch of as I guess there's a bunch of coffee shops and record stores. So they
Mhm.
open up the garage and they have all these people watching them rehearse. And they don't do gigs. This is like 2 years ago. So they have a
Yeah.
vibe, a cool actual vibe. And I
That's
heard one of the
awesome.
tunes and I thought, this is a great place for Perkins Palace to start. They're starting, I'm starting. No, they don't have a following, but neither do I. No, they
Mhm.
have history, but neither do I. But we have experience. And so now this has just been incredible. We put the first song out called Smoke 'em If You Got 'em in October.
Mhm.
And it's been 5 or 6 months, but it's really a slow grow. It's on FM radio. It's on Sirius XM. I got him on a show with the Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, Alice in Chains. I got him on another show with Chili Peppers and Kiss. I got him on a third show with I don't want to tell you the fight because I don't know exactly who's on that lineup.
Okay.
They're going to get an agent, and it's starting to happen. And I feel like I have another kid.
Yay.
I have this pride and experience. And I flew them to LA. They met Jackson Brown the first night they got here. They met Dave Grohl the night before they left. We did a session at 606. They got on stage with me and my band Think Floyd. I took them to JBL and they met Becky. We got a great vibe at JBL. And it was just something that I guess I've built and drawn a bunch of bridges. I want to help these guys cross them. And they completely respect the whole process, and they respect everything. They never disrespected a moment of the trip or what's happening. And it's just been a fun, I guess in a sense, a reignition of creativity in me. I'm not in the band, but I can help create. And that's new for me, I'm really digging it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So and called Air, AEIR. They're from Columbus and Perkins Palace. I think the record will probably come out in July.
That's awesome. I will link in the show notes on the podcast and in the YouTube description because the music is great. That single's so good. And I feel like we need that music right now. Like there's a space for that for sure. It's really good. So
they grew up on the right stuff, in my opinion. They're good rock and roll players. Mm-hmm. They don't mess around. They get right to the point. The lyrics are important to them, and they always were to me when I grew up. I didn't realize it when I tried to write them how hard it is to write lyrics and good ones. Mm-hmm. But they wrote some great lyrics. They have a song called "Body" about body shaming. They have a song called "Tug of War" about people posting and taking advantage and bullying online. And it's just interesting because when they're in your 20s, they're going through stuff that I don't want to pollute or dilute. They ask my opinion. I've got one. But hey, I'm 54 from LA. Mm-hmm. You guys are in your 20s from Columbus. I want to know your opinion. I want to hear what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people in their 20s have a completely different perspective on what's happening like in the world and what's going on. And I feel like when I was in my 20s or late teens, I wasn't maybe as aware of everything that was going on. Of course, we didn't have, social media and things weren't right at your fingertips all the time. So there's like a real serious awareness in young people that I think is influencing music now, which is amazing.
Unbelievably, of course. Social media, yes. And then, of course, the pandemic, politics aside, but people took sides. Mm-hmm. That, even in families and in relationships, and all of a sudden politics was an issue, never was before.
Yes.
And so then you had people unfortunately getting sick and other people not getting sick, and why we don't know the rhyme or reason to that. Mm-hmm. And it was these guys in their 20s, me and you were out there having a good time. These guys were told not to go out and not can stay home. So the songs have a lot of punch and bite and teeth. But it's not all hard rock and music, but it's punk rock attitude because they had to go through hell to get there,
For sure. Yeah. There's a lot in there. Absolutely. Yeah. And you are doing so much. I loved, I texted you about coming on and being on the podcast, and you texted me back, and it was incredible because usually I, do a bunch of research and make some notes on what I know about what you're doing and what you're up to. But you were just like, here's what I'm up to, and sent me a bunch of text messages that were incredibly helpful, first of all. So thank you for that. But also really blew my mind because I'm like, how is he doing all these great things? It's amazing.
Well, I'm like I said, from Kenny Aronoff's advice, say yes. And when it rains, it pours in my life. Because sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be the next 6 months of my life are really packed. But MC5, Wayne Kramer, who is now 73 years old, put
Wow.
together an incredible record with Bob Ezrin producing, Tom Morello on guitar, Abe's on drums.
Awesome.
Great record. And he wants to do 8-10 shows. So
Mhm.
MC5 is going to tour in May, and Stevie Salas is going to play guitar for that. So that's an honor. I can't wait. We've been kind of chewing at the songs slowly, and then we go to Detroit on May 1st for I think 5 straight days of rehearsal, and then the first show is on May 5th. So that's MC5 with Wayne, and
Mhm.
then I got Think X, which I like to call Think Floyd. Now Think X has the saxophonist from Pink Floyd,
Mhm.
Scott Page, and he also played with Toto and Supertramp. And he's got stories, man. The Picaro stories. It's
Oh
just
my
really
gosh.
cool. It's beautiful.
I've
So
been on a Toto kick, like,
oh wow,
for the past 2 months or so, and it's yeah, just Toto all the time lately, so
incredible because it's so the way they play is so smooth, but if you try to play that way, it's nearly impossible. It's just
yes, yeah, the
it's not
feel is
natural.
so much of it is the feel, right?
Yeah, it just feels great, and the confidence. I was lucky to play Picaro's kit. One session I did with Shankar, the double violinist. They
Yeah.
had Jeff's yellow. I think it was the old Yamaha.
Wow.
Sounded
That's
great.
cool. Like the
Three
canary
toms,
yellow.
yeah, three
Yeah,
toms and a kick. Yep, that was it.
so good.
So Think Floyd's doing gigs, and we use a lot of visuals because the music calls for it. But we
Mhm,
add a little more muscle to the songs. We don't really kind of replicate the Floyd. We
mhm.
add our own flavor, but the songs are so good, so we don't want to ignore the quality of that. And
Sure.
we've done 60 shows in the last 3 years.
Wow.
So we've been really kind of going for it. Now we're kicking that back up. And then about 10 years ago, I had a band called Halloween Jack with Gilby Clarke.
Mhm.
And we would do just kind of glam rock covers. But we heard that the New York Dolls guitar player Sylvan passed away. So I called Gilby. I said, let's do a cover of the Dolls song called Trash. And this is during the pandemic. We'll do a video remotely, like a Brady Bunch video. And we'll just put it out there as in honor. And as
Mhm.
soon as that happened, an agent and a manager called and said, let's get some work together. And,
Wow.
okay, let's make it happen. So they actually have turned the key, and we've got some shows with Dee Snider from Twisted Sister singing, which
Mhm.
I think is cool. The guy's a powerful man, and
So good.
he's done a lot of great things in his career, including hang out with Frank Zappa and
Right?
at the Senate. So I think he's just an incredible man. So that's Halloween
He's
Jack.
great. Mhm.
Jane's Addiction. We got Lollapalooza. We got Louder Than Life. Really very excited about it. I think the announcement's going to happen in the middle of May, but we're putting together a proper tour, and I love the music. I love playing it. It feels right. When
Yes.
Perry says 3, 4, it just feels like nothing's wrong. And I
I
told
love
the guys
that.
if we could take that feeling and bottle that and just like send it
Yes.
out to the world. So, these things are new and old, but they're also, like you said, the pandemic makes you realize what's important. Everybody wants to play.
Mhm.
And I got Hellride, which is a punk band. Even Hellride wants to get together. And, it's like, why not just do what we can as many times as we can? And then, bye bye.
Yeah. I like that thought. I like that thought, right? Just yeah, do what you love for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And then
I was telling,
leave a
well,
legacy, right?
it's true. The legacy is what you leave behind, and it is what the music, like Taylor, we can listen, we can watch, we can feel Taylor. 50 years is way too young, but
Mhm.
think about Bonham and Moon and Morrison and Janice and Kurt. It's like, but it's still there with us.
Mhm.
Is I was telling my son, time is relative, and a simple way to look at that, when you're kissing somebody for 10 seconds, it goes by quick. But if you have
Mhm.
a hot match on your finger for 10 seconds, that's goes by very slow.
Mm-hmm.
Same 10 seconds. It's what you do with your time. If you do something you love, your life will go by quick. You're like, damn, I'm already 70 because
Yeah.
you had a good time, instead of like, oh, So, do what you love because, you're only here once, at least as far as we know,
Yes.
and enjoy that time because there is going to be some like tornado, hurricane, earthquake, some crazy shit's always going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Can't stop that. That's
Mm-hmm.
the nature of living on the planet. But try to have your own environment, your own circle. Keep that pleasant, and don't let those, which I'm a victim of like all of us, the news and uncertainty and bills and numbers. It gets in the way of happiness, and I don't want to die looking at my bank account. I
Yeah.
want to die looking at my wife's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it's like that's important, and I just think the most important thing now, as we have these opportunities, music and sports, museums and film, is like let's really enjoy what people do, and it's okay to criticize and not like and
Mm-hmm.
dislike. People ask for advice as a musician. It's okay if they don't like you, because you don't want everybody to like your music. You're not you're not ice cream.
Yes.
Not everything. If everybody liked it, maybe you're not doing anything new.
Right.
You got to break some rules.
That's
So
very true.
don't worry about everybody liking you. Like yourself, and don't believe what everybody says, because I remember an early review saying I was a great drummer. I believed it. Then another review was like, he plays too much. He's not so good. Oh shit, which one am I going to believe, right? So I
Right.
can't believe in either of those. I have to believe in myself. And
Yes.
yeah, it's all you can do, because people have opinions. And who knows, the guy that did like you maybe years later will stop liking you.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes around.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not
You can't
about being liked.
control. Yeah. You can't control how
Yeah,
someone else feels, right? You can only control how you feel about yourself,
yeah,
what you're putting out into the world. And I was told when I first started in this industry, I was told that I was too nice to make it in this industry. And I thought to myself, well, I could harden myself and
yeah,
change. But then I thought, you know what? If I'm too nice to make it in this industry, maybe I don't want to be in this industry because this is who I am. And I wanted to stay true to myself. And, you
absolutely.
know, so that I think that's an important message. I love that advice that you just gave. So
Yeah, and and as like a musician, like anything, you need to be pliable and you stick to your guns, but also know that other opinions are so important. And it's like a cup of clean water. If you put a little bit of blue dye in there, the whole thing goes blue. You don't have to put a much. You don't have to put much. So if everybody adds their own little tint, it's going to change.
mhm.
And that little change is how we move forward and have a social life. And
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean? And not just my way or the highway. Be
Yes.
open and be open. Music is so, it's like a tennis match. You really want to play with someone who can return, but you do want to have a heck of a time doing it. You want to
Mhm.
go for it. And so that's what music has got, this like, let's really challenge each other. It's good to play with people that are better than you, but
Mhm.
then also let's have this comfort zone where we can do what we want and not feel uncomfortable about failing. If you call it,
Right.
failing, a great producer will make you feel comfortable about failing, and that
Mhm.
that way you go for it. you know if you're all like,
Absolutely.
if you're stressed out and the producer's a little strict, he might get something out of you. But I think if you have a relationship where you feel safe, you're going to probably do something even more exciting.
Agreed. And I think that's where creativity comes from too. It's from a place of letting it happen. Like letting a creative person do what they do and not putting them in a box basically.
Yeah.
Like yeah, do what you do, but like in these parameters. Of course there are always parameters to anything, but if you hinder somebody's creative energy too much, it's not going to come through like it should,
Yeah.
artist, musician, anybody.
Yeah. I love being in the studio and taking advice and trying to serve a songwriter or a producer, or even better, a cinematic moment when you're looking and you're playing to a movie and there's a moment that you cannot fluctuate from because it's working with the movie. There's a great satisfaction in that.
Yes.
And it's like you said, it's a math problem. It fits every time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that moment where you want to just have this, conversation with your instrument, not your words. And I think Bob Ezrin, the great producer, said to me, if you really just explore before you get to the studio, and then when we get there, we've got something, then all that's out of the way in a sense, even though it's fun to do it in the studio with the headphones, glass walls, but get all that kind of out. And when you get here, you have a crystal clear vision of what we're here for. And then that really helps if everybody shows up with that.
Yes.
That'll definitely help. And then he also said to me, when we go mix, at the end of the mix, no one can comment about their instrument. So listen to the song. And if you have any comments, make it about other instruments. And of course, the tune is over. We were silent because I'm usually like, more kick drum, third verse.
Right.
Crash cymbal at the intro. What happened? But he's like, don't bring up your instrument. And I thought, damn, it sounded pretty good. If I'm not talking about the drums, He's like,
that's so funny. Like, what a great way to think about it.
Yeah. Step out of your performance and what you think your drum set or guitar or bass rig should sound like, and just listen to everybody else's. And like, cool. That was an interesting way to agree on the song's mix. It was good.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah,
right. Because you're always going to hyper focus and get too into something that no one else will notice, right?
Exactly.
So,
you didn't hear the ghost note, the second ghost note. I'm like, hello.
Right, exactly. You're never gonna know.
Yeah.
I can't let you go without asking though.
Okay.
Will we see more activity at some point, do you think, from Porno for Pyros?
Great question.
Yeah.
So me and Peter DiStefano have been looking at 10 to 12 songs that we wrote back in the day when we wrote the whole clump. And we got all these tunes that are so porno. And Perry's going through his lyrics and melodies. So the answer is yes. I think there's going to be something. And it's such a easy puzzle because the music and the lyrics and the melodies, they exist. All we have to do is kind of fine tune them and agree on making it.
Yes.
And I think that's also this carrot at the end of the stick for us. Why don't we finish what we started? So there's that. So I say yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I had to ask that question. And I also found out that a couple of things I did not know about your playing or songs that you played on.
Okay.
But in doing some extra research, I read that you played drums on Nine Inch Nails' I Do Not Want This, which is so good. And I need to go back and listen. And I need to listen to you. Nine Inch Nails is just one of my favorites, of course, growing up and in that time frame and the early 90s and that music. My gosh, it was just so part of my formative musical journey. But I had no idea. And then Chili Pepper stuff and Rage Against the Machine. And I'm thinking oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Well, it's cool because there was a small community and it's still there. And we're all still kind of touching each other's families. But when Jane's happened, Tom was around and he had a band called Lockup. Lockup used to open for Jane's, and this was before Rage. One of Rage's first big shows with, I think it was Porno and Rage at Castaic Lake. But there was the Nine Inch Nails session. So I think Trent must have done at least 30 shows with Jane's in 89 and 90. So there was a friendship and a tightness. And we started working on that record. He called me. We had a full day at A&M, which is now Henson Studios. It was just me and him and a producer, an engineer. He was producing. and he didn't really have much music. He just had different tempos, different ideas, and I just went for it. And he kind of collected all these ideas and rhythms and put together what you hear on the record.
That's
But
cool.
what a cool day it was, because most of the time before that, it was working out songs and parts with the play.
Hmm.
This is the first time, which is all normal now, for a drummer just to play a shitload of loops and beats to a click and
Right.
tempos. You know, this is way before people were just like, just give me a bunch of beats and I'll cut it up and make something. So
Yes.
it was new to me, but it was total Trent. He knew exactly what he wanted. But I had nobody to play with except for a click and Trent in the room, you know, rocking out with me. But he didn't play any other instruments. It was
Wow.
just me alone with different tempos and different, you know, ideas, and 6/8, 4/4, this, that, and the
Hmm.
other. So it was a great day. And then years later, Trent said that some of those grooves ended up on different records that he produced.
That's cool.
He didn't really tell me where and when, how, if I could find them, but
Right, right. That's so funny. I wonder
yeah.
if, you'll be listening to, like, a random Nine Inch Nails song and be like, "Oh, yeah, that's me."
Oh, cool. But
It's super
and
cool.
it's been great to have those memories, like postcards. I did steel drum with No Doubt on a song called Spiderwebs.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, there's steel drum, and it's like I hear it and I can remember the room and the vibe and the smell and the people. And that's the
Yeah.
fun thing about music, you know, it's like the memories, those postcards.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, and I think we can all think about those, like, even from childhood, the songs. I mean, we just mentioned Toto, but, like,
Hmm.
Rosanna was, like, the song that I fell asleep to as a two-year-old. Like, I had to
That's
listen to that
cool.
record every night. But, like, it just the feeling that it brings back, and, like, the smell of the food cooking at the time, and, like, it's just so, I don't know, it's just, like, part of the fabric of who we are. I love that about music.
Yeah, and there's something like, how did Satisfaction by the Stones reach everywhere? How does one song, how does something Bob Marley does reach around the globe?
Mm,
It's so strange, and it's just music. Maybe it was existing, and he just kind of like pulled it out and then recorded it for us. It was already there. I mean,
right.
like how do these things happen? It's so strange, and and as a drummer in LA, I used to see the Venice Drum Circle. I was a little shy. I wouldn't join,
Mhm.
but doom, 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 and there was a crowd, and there was an energy,
Mm,
true energy, and I thought, that is something I need to do. And I've been doing drum circles since high school, and
yeah.
I do them in the parking lot at Jane shows. I do them, at with communities that need attention, like a school or a home, a nursing
Mhm.
home. I'll do them wherever I can, because it feels good to play drums and see people react. And
Mm,
also, when you're far away, you hear it like, what is that over there?
yeah,
You're like, I love having that reaction of people I don't know. I don't even know
and they
who
just
they are.
come to you, right? Like, yeah,
It's,
they follow the beat. It's
it's
amazing.
beautiful. It is. It's cool. So drums to me are not only a way I make a living and get my kid through, school and pay the bills, but it's the way to make my world go around. It's my lubrication, you know?
Mhm, mhm,
And
absolutely.
I have to lubricate all the time.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I just wanna point people to where they can find the dates for all of these things. Should they follow you on Instagram? Um,
Absolutely. A Stephen Perkins drummer is my Instagram, and I usually like to post just inspirational and motivational drum moments in my life or other drummers that turn me on. So when you go visit there, there's a lot of drum, but that's what I am. I love drum. But
right?
I'm always kind of posting on the different shows I'm doing, and the Jane's thing, it's going to be big, and when that comes together, I'm going to tell the world over and over. I can't wait, and I think me and another drummer from the other band, when it happens, we're going to just have the best time. 30 to 40 shows together. One of your favorite drummers, so it's going to be good. And yeah, Stephen Perkins drummer at IG, and Twitter Stephen Perkins, and Jane's Addiction. Um, just look me up, and I'll look you back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephen. It's been
You got it,
amazing to
Sarah.
catch up with you and, so inspiring as always to talk with you. So I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Love to the family. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I will see you in person soon enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today. Join us each Tuesday for new episodes of Sarah Hagan Backstage.